Indonesia operates as a massive, real-time testing ground where highly fragile ecologies collide directly with rapid economic development. This collision has produced an exponential surge in academic literature focused on sustainable tourism over the last decade. But an increase in publication volume does not automatically yield rigorous, actionable science capable of solving systemic problems. To evaluate this research, we analyzed a corpus of 304 peer-reviewed papers across 26 Indonesian tourism journals, encompassing 1.4 million words. These studies form a nationwide footprint, with heavy concentrations mapping over Bali, East Java, and West Java. We will filter this raw data through three analytical lenses: the methodologies deployed, the specific topics investigated, and their practical application. By breaking down the literature across these dimensions, we map the exact anatomy of the discipline and expose the critical blind spots researchers are leaving behind. The first lens applied to the corpus is research methodology. We begin by sorting the 304 papers into three structural models: qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods. The data reveals a massive statistical imbalance. Nearly 3/4 of all studies, 73.35%, fall entirely into the qualitative bucket. By contrast, quantitative research makes up just 16.96% of the corpus, and mixed method studies sit at a mere 9.7%. Furthermore, the overwhelming majority of this qualitative output relies heavily on basic descriptive analysis, ethnography, and simple SWOT frameworks. The rare instances where researchers do attempt a mixed method approach are strictly siloed. They are mostly restricted to environmental scientists linking biological data with direct field observations. These studies look exactly like this: field conservationists measuring environmental impacts on local ecosystems, rather than social scientists mathematically quantifying economic or cultural shifts. Consequently, many authors treat their methodology sections as administrative formalities. They describe what they are looking at, but fail to explain how the study was rigorously designed for replication. This massive qualitative bulge aligns with the data showing that the majority of these papers are produced by early career researchers, with methodology sections often treated as descriptive summaries rather than technical blueprints. Moving to the second lens, we analyze the topical echo chamber through keyword frequency. We extracted a raw stream of 2,139 words from the corpus and filtered them down to 747 unique, meaningful keywords. These keywords group into four dominant subjects: development, ecotourism, tourists, and community. These clusters prove that the literature is heavily anchored to localized micro-scale phenomena, specifically community-based and rural village tourism. The research repeatedly sets its focus on environments exactly like this: small-scale, traditional communities navigating local tourism integration. Reviewing how these localized topics are framed, however, reveals a severe anomaly. The academic output is overwhelmingly optimistic. What is missing is rigorous, critical investigation into the negative externalities generated by tourism development. The corpus largely ignores well-documented problems, such as increasing income inequality and the gradual commodification of local culture. It also fails to scrutinize the systemic failures of neoliberal conservation efforts, where the label of ecotourism can be weaponized to justify local resource imbalances. By ignoring these critical dimensions, the literature ceases to act as an objective scientific audit and instead functions as an echo chamber of localized optimism. The final lens maps this corpus against the functional applications of sustainable development. This diagram illustrates the baseline theoretical model required for true sustainability. It relies on a balance across three pillars: environmental, sociocultural, and economic. When we map the functional management data from the corpus onto this model, the environmental and sociocultural pillars quickly saturate with published studies. Yet the economic pillar remains distinctly hollow. Researchers dedicate significant attention to the sociocultural pillar, frequently documenting efforts to preserve deep traditional practices. This presents a paradox. National legislation relies on tourism as a primary engine for macroeconomic growth, yet the academic community evaluating it ignores the economic dimension of sustainability. Subjects requiring urgent analysis, such as sustainable financial management, circular economies, and the macroeconomic footprint of intermediaries like tour operators, are neglected. This gap persists when we shift to the specific stakeholder groups evaluated. This chart shows the stakeholder focus across the corpus. While local communities and the hospitality industry receive heavy scrutiny, media entities and intermediaries are virtually absent. Ignoring the media, a primary driver of user-generated content and destination imaging, leaves a significant gap in our understanding of how public perception and tourist behavior are shaped outside the classroom. Combining these three lenses allows us to plot the exact trajectory of this 304-paper corpus. This is a matrix evaluating the utility of the discipline. The vertical axis measures methodological rigor, and the horizontal axis measures the scale of focus, moving from micro to systemic. Based on the data, Indonesian sustainable tourism research clusters heavily in the bottom left quadrant. To remain relevant, the discipline must migrate to the top right quadrant. Reaching that level requires adopting complex mixed methods, applying critical sociology to uncover negative impacts, and aggressively studying financial management models. This quadrant has value. It successfully establishes localized baseline data for rural communities and specific ecological niches. But localized observation, regardless of volume, cannot solve systemic macroeconomic policy failures. Sustainable tourism cannot survive on local optimism and descriptive summaries. To actually protect fragile environments on a global scale, the science evaluating them must adopt systemic, mathematical, and economic rigor.